Hey everyone, and welcome to My Vertical Obsession. I'm your host Megan, and today we are talking about Ice and Flame on MyDrama. And I've been wanting to talk about this one for a while, so I finally finished off the review and can't wait to dive into it. So Ice and Flame stars Sarah Shaheen as Diana/Emma, Jared Staub as Dylan Grayson, Eric Ruggieri as Coach Alex, Natasha Mayman as Lauren, Jake Cameron as Christopher. Hopefully I pronounced names correctly. I apologize if I say any name incorrectly. I do try to look it up before, so hopefully I didn't do too bad. So now the synopsis for this is Emma, an ambitious undercover journalist, must infiltrate the world of hockey star Dylan Grayson to dig up a scandal that could save her career. But as she gets closer to him, sparks fly and secrets surface, putting both their futures at risk. So I went a little overboard with the overview of this, so please bear with me. I apologize. I think I really kind of went into a play-by-play of the series. So we got, after an undercover assignment gets messed up because of Dylan Grayson, journalist Emma takes the opportunity to save her career, saying she will dig up dirt on Dylan for an article. Her boss agrees, but says if she can't come up with anything, she's fired. She goes undercover as Diana and gets a job as Dylan's assistant/babysitter. Since Dylan is prone to scandal, his coach is in need of someone to keep him in line and on track. Diana's job is to keep Dylan sober and out of trouble, otherwise Dylan could lose it all. Diana is doing her best to keep him in line, while Dylan is doing his best to ignore and get rid of her. Emma is working to find anything she can to use for her article. While she is snooping, she sees someone put something in Dylan's water bottle. After making herself look crazy during an interview Dylan had, Diana proves to Dylan someone tampered with his water. Since Dylan was meant to drink it, it brings up questions of who wanted him out of the game. Could it have been someone he knows? Coach says not to let it change anything, and hopefully they can figure out who's doing it. When Diana wakes up, she tries to snoop but is caught by Lauren, Dylan's PR person and kind of girlfriend. Lauren doesn't like Diana at all and wants to get rid of her. Diana isn't backing down. 1, she still needs a story, and 2, someone is after Dylan. When Emma is back at the hockey rink, she ends up finding Dylan's journal that shares how lonely he is. She also sees Dylan and Lauren hooking up. A little later, she finds him on the ice and he teaches her to skate a little. The two end up connecting, flirting, sparks fly between them. That night, Emma starts to read more of what is written and sees maybe there is more than meets the eye. She starts to second guess the article, realizing he isn't the person he's made out to be. She gets interrupted by Dylan and his friends still up and drinking, and after she sends them away, she and Dylan do some more flirting, only for something to change in the morning. Dylan is off and everyone can see it. That night when Diana finds him drinking, he tells her Lauren is pregnant, and she says he's not allowed in the baby's life if he's not with her. He tells Diana how he grew up without parents and he doesn't want to do that to his child. The whole conversation Emma ends up recording. The next day, the two have words. After Emma hears Dylan and Lauren fighting, he tries to push her away. Later that night, the two talk again, flirting a little, and end up sleeping together. The following morning, after Diana wakes up, she realizes her phone is gone, and when she goes to the rink, she finds an article about Dylan that was written by her, but she wasn't the one to write it. She tries to explain, but ends up rejected and fired. She even tried to tell her boss she didn't write it, but he knew that would not look good for the magazine. Emma wasn't willing to give up since someone set her up, and someone is still out to get Dylan. When Dylan goes down on the ice, she's determined to see him. When she does go, she wears a disguise and ends up hearing a couple things like who might be behind this, and that Lauren sent the article and she wasn't really pregnant. Dylan and Emma make up and decide to work together to find out who wants him out of the game. Dylan ends up accusing his coach, but thankfully that wasn't the case. It's now the final game and Dylan's looking for Diana only to get the message she's in trouble. He has to choose between playing in the game or saving her. We learn that it was all Chris, Dylan's teammate, Dad's dads who wanted Dylan out. He had money on the team losing and needed Dylan out of the game to ensure that they lost. He also had help from his son and Lauren. Dylan ends up choosing to save Diana/Emma and ends up shot trying to protect her. Dylan comes in not long later thinking that this was all working out and he'd be the star now. Dylan is able to talk to Chris and convince him his dad is wrong and to help them. After seeing for himself his dad didn't care about him, Chris does the right thing and stops his dad. Dylan and Diana/Emma get to be happy, and the coach lets them know that they get to redo the final game because of what happened, to which the team ends up winning. Like I said, that was a lot, and I'm sorry. I really kind of went a little overboard with the overview of that, but I was like, there's so much in here. I was wrong. So I try not to do the overview too big, but I like to have it just enough to kind of cover what the series is about. So now as we go into the talking points and my notes, we got first up is the red herring. There was a good while that I really thought it was the Coach Alec, that was the one trying to bring Dylan Grayson down, was mainly because he had been a father figure to Dylan, so it gave me this whole, he would end up betraying him, especially since there was this whole thing with Dylan and not trusting people, that it turned out the one person he trusted most was to betray him in the end. So I was glad when it was just a red herring and the coach didn't betray Dylan. So I was super glad about that, and I was very nervous that the coach would be the one to portray Dylan in the end. And I was like, please don't do this. He's been this father figure. He's been the one person that Dylan can trust. Do not do this. So I was very glad that that is not the route that they went down. So continued with that. I would have been so sad to see that. Dylan was already so vulnerable, and to take the man who helped get him to where he was, I think would have destroyed him. It would have broken him in a way that would have been hard to come back from. It was someone he spent his whole life trusting, so to have that broken is a wound that is hard and slow to heal. And again, so glad it was just a misdirect and the coach wasn't the villain of Dylan's story. So glad. It would have been very hard to see that, but you could definitely see why one would think that, because it was leading towards that, but I was glad that it just did not go down that route, like I said. So the next thing I had written was the actual mastermind of it all. The only other person I thought could have been behind this was Chris, who was the second or Dylan's backup. He was always wanting to be put in the game and so upset at the press conference when Dylan showed up and put back in the game. Sure, it could have been just him wanting to play, but it was also what made him suspicious, that maybe he was willing to do anything to play in the game, even if it meant taking Dylan out. This could have ended up being a red herring too, but in the end, it was partly true. It did end up being Chris who spiked Dylan's water, but he thought it was to get him on the ice, only it was to help his dad win money if the team lost. So in the end, it turned out to be Chris's dad who was pulling the strings. Lauren was involved, helping Chris's dad ruin the game. When he talked about murder, things changed, and Lauren not wanting to be part of that. Chris didn't want to be part of that either. It was a good thing that Dylan was able to convince Chris his dad didn't care about him, that his dad was only in it for himself. All Chris wanted was the chance to play hockey and prove he was just as good as Dylan. Chris was just manipulated by his father. His father took the one thing that Chris wanted and used it to his advantage. While Chris does deserve to be punished for the part he played, it's still a little sad to see he's losing everything. I believe there's hope for him since he did do the right thing in the end. I really enjoyed the twist of who was out to get Dylan, because again, I thought it was Chris or the coach. Never would have thought it was someone else, let alone a parent of a player. It also makes sense that when it comes to betting, the best way to lose is to take out the star player. He just didn't account for Diana/Emma protecting Dylan or being an undercover journalist. So that was kind of a nice twist, both with the fact that it was Chris's dad and not actually the coach or Chris fully and that you had them underestimating the fact that Dylan had people behind him that would try and help him and protect him. So it was nice and a fun little twist on the story. So I really, really enjoyed that. So one of the other things that I had said about this series was talking about Lauren as a character. I said, the minute Emma couldn't find her phone, something like this would happen. She had all the info she collected on the phone, so it was bound to get in the hands of the media, even if it wasn't her job. You'd also think as a journalist who does undercover work, she'd know to lock or password protect her phone. Why she didn't do that, I'm still quite confused about. I was just asking for someone to find it and either expose her or use it for their own gain. In this case, Lauren used it for her own gain to hurt Dylan. I thought it might have been her who leaked the info. She was suspicious of Diana, so why not set her up to get her out of the picture? Since she was a PR person, she could have easily written the article and sent it. I'm not sure why Emma wouldn't have figured that out sooner is crazy. I mean, she probably could have figured it out, but I get it was too kind of expand and prolong the drama. It was still a good reveal when Lauren said that she was the one who wrote the article, while she said she did it to get back at him for not loving her back and wanting him to hurt how she was hurting. I feel she might not have loved him like she said. She faked a pregnancy and tried to keep him from the baby, even if he didn't want to be with her, and helped get him off the ice so his team could lose. Those aren't things you do to someone you claim to love. Maybe there was a part of her that loved him, but I felt it was more about what he could do for her. Dylan is the star hockey player, and that would get her into a spotlight too. She ended up helping Chris's dad, who was just looking for money, so she had no problem betraying Dylan for money. One could say she was doing it because she was hurt and lashing out. That wasn't the case when it came to the baby. She said she thought that would get him to stay, but she used it as a way to force him to be with her. She told him if he wasn't with her that he'd never be part of the baby's life, and that is cruel because of Dylan's background. She used it in hopes he wouldn't want to be away from his child, and that is not something you do to someone you love. Even Emma was wanting to get rid of everything she collected because she cared for him and didn't want to hurt him. She was choosing Dylan over her job, so she just hadn't done it sooner, so the article could never have come out. She was going to delete it all until she realized her phone was gone. Emma also fought to prove she didn't hurt Dylan, no matter the cost. Those are things you do for someone you love, not try and destroy them for revenge. So I kind of was pointing out the difference between what Lauren did and what Emma did when it came to Dylan, to kind of show the difference between Emma's love for Dylan and Lauren, who said she loved Dylan. It's like, you don't hurt someone you love, whereas Emma's case, she was willing to throw her whole career out the window and her job for Dylan. So there was a big difference between the two of them. Now on to my final note, which is about Jared, the actor, and the star who plays Dylan Grayson. So getting into this, I said, can we talk about Jared for a moment? I was just in awe of him in this series. He brought such a vulnerability to the character of Dylan Grayson. You find out how his parents are gone and he never really had anyone, but the coach is in his corner. So trust never really came easy to him. One thing he did was keep people at arm's length. He put up this tough guy act as a shield, but deep down he was just a scared boy who didn't want to get hurt. Jared played that so well. He was able to show such a great balance of the tough on the surface, but fearful and lonely underneath. It made his tough character relatable. You could see Dylan's outer shell cracking the more time he spent with Diana, how Dylan shut down when he thought Diana betrayed him. One of my favorite scenes was when Dylan told Diana how Lauren was pregnant. He was raw, honest, and real in that moment, and for the first time you could see the real Dylan Grayson and not the one he showed the world. Jared just sucks you in with his performance, and he makes you feel for Dylan in a way you haven't before. There's just something about watching Jared's series because he's just a very talented actor, and I'm in awe of him. So I love getting to see his series too. And I feel he will do some big things. And if you ever have a chance to watch any of his series, I highly recommend them. Especially this one, and the ones on Candy Jar are really good. He does an amazing job in those. So I'm just such a Jared fan, I will say. And this series started it all. While it wasn't the first series I saw him in, it's the first one where I really noticed him as an actor. And I think it was because the other ones that I watched, he was a supporting role or only had a couple scenes, whereas this one, he was the main character. So I think that's why I really noticed him more in this one. But he is fantastic, amazing, and I see he has a new series and I click on it. Now I'll watch it always. So amazing. Okay, so now that I've gone down a little fangirl rant, let's go on to the overall thoughts of the whole series. So I really enjoyed this series. I thought it was cute and very entertaining. I know a lot of things I really enjoyed about it was Jared. As I had mentioned, he had done such a great job on the role of Dylan Grayson. I also loved that it was a hockey series. I feel you tend to see more softball or basketball series when it comes to sports. Hockey tends to be close third, but not as much as football or basketball. I think I've seen baseball a bit more than hockey in the past, and maybe logistically it's not as easy to do when filming, or it's just easier to go with football and basketball as a sport. I do know that more hockey series are popping up now, so it's getting its love, especially in mainstream media with the rivalry off campus. I'm sure there's some other ones out there, but hockey's getting its love. And when I wrote this, hockey wasn't getting as much love right now, so that's why that's in there. But I still feel this is slightly accurate, that you tend to see more football and basketball series sports versus hockey sports when it comes to movies, shows, or series in general. So it's just something that I feel I've noticed. And I could be wrong. I just might be watching the wrong things. But either way, I did enjoy the series. It had me guessing on who might be going after Dylan and why they would want to go after him, as well as wondering if Emma would go through with the article or if she had a change of heart. She was able to see the person Dylan truly was and realize the media was wrong. She didn't want to add to that. It was a slow build that led to this. The more she got to know him and be in his life, the more she started to second guess the article. It was also how she slowly fell in love with him. He showed her the real him, and it opened them up to something special. So when the article was published, not by Emma, that betrayal hit hard. The two had shown each other parts of themselves they didn't share with anyone else. Dylan felt as he had been fooled, and Emma felt as if she had been abandoned. Even though it wasn't Emma's article, the damage was still there because she was going to do the article in the beginning, so it was up to her to fight to fix everything. I think this helped give its rom-com feel to it. It had love, betrayal, forgiveness, and hockey. It was just a good mix of everything. I think that that is what made it so good. Also, Jared and his acting. Sarah was also really good in the role of Emma/Diana. I think she and Jared played off each other very well. The two of them really made the series as good as it was, and it was really well done and really enjoyable to watch, and I highly recommend it. If you have not seen it, you should go and watch it. MyDrama, just some really good series, and this is one of them, and I loved everything about it. So going into the rating, I gave it a 8 out of 10, and again, I try not to give too high of a rating unless it's like beyond phenomenal, so an 8 out of 10 is like a really good score in my book. I know it doesn't seem it, but it is. I swear. It's like one of the highlights. And as always, would love to hear your thoughts about the series. Would love to hear what you like and what you didn't like. And if you are enjoying this podcast, please be sure to leave a review. Would love to know how you are enjoying it. This has been Ice and Flame on MyDrama. I'm your host, Megan. My vertical obsession. Until next time.